Hi.
Hello.
I'm sitting here with Doug Larson and AJ Larson of Woftam Racing. They're going to tell us a little bit about how they got started. Doug, can you tell us how Woftam got started?
Uh, Missy and I were married in 1992, correct?
That correct?
It's 30, almost 31 years ago.
31 years, August 1st.
Uh, and my plan was to come home from the Air Force and race a sprint car, and I had no idea how to do it. And one day, my father-in-law, Missy's father, called us up
Tom Smith.
and said, "I bought you a chassis. That's all I'm going to do. It's up to you." And so we had it sandblasted and we had it painted. Well, we painted it ourselves and put it on a cart stand and stared at it like a bunch of idiots because we had no idea how we were going to get an engine for it.
And wheels,
And
tires.
we had a few wheels. We got a brand new steering wheel, which we thought we were living in high cotton by then. Um, and we were sitting in Knoxville one night, and Tom said, "Well, Rob, you want to race? Doug wants to race. Why don't you two talk?" And Rob Wilson,
God rest his soul.
if anybody had a hand in putting Woftam together, it was Rob. He he put money and effort into it, and guidance and encouragement. And he and I were both wanting to get to sprint cars, and he wanted to wrench, I wanted to drive, and neither of us really knew how to get there. And he had worked with Matt Fox on his 360 at Knoxville and at a couple other tracks. And
Rob Wilson, also known as Slim.
Slim, Rob Slim Wilson. We pooled our money. We bought an engine, used KT100 that Larry Killam had built, and our first race ever was at the Coke Syrup at Veterans Memorial Auditorium. It was, I believe, it wasn't on Cassidy's birthday, but it was on the day of her birthday.
It was the day of her first birthday party, so it was 1995.
So my dad, my father-in-law, myself, I believe Robbie would have been there. And we're all standing in the backyard, and we had the garage open. And everybody kept saying, "Well, what's keeping you from running?" And I said, "Well, the motor won't run right, and we don't know if the clutch is set." And they said, "Well, who can help you?" And I said, "Everybody that can help us is at Vets tomorrow night or tonight or whatever it was." And so we said, "Well, hell, let's load it up." And so we threw it in the truck with all of our tools and our starter and all of our bits and pieces. And went down to the track and just started the tradition of saying, "Hey, can you help me?" And our friend John Burride had cut numbers for us, shiny, metallic, silver numbers with a black drop shadow. It was a maroon cart, and he had cut sevens and ones. And I really wanted to be the number seven. And second choice was 17 for some reason. And we went to sign up. They said, "What number do you want to run?" They said 7. And they said, "We already got one of those." And John said, "Do you want 71 then?" And before I could say, "No, I'd rather have 17, the lady said, "Okay, 71, $35. And that's how we became the 71 for Woftam Racing. And we ran pretty bad that night, had a blast. Cassidy had to pay a $15 pit pass for being a 1-year-old kid. And,
She did.
She slept through the whole
Well,
night.
she didn't pay for it. Somebody else paid for it, but it was paid.
She slept through the whole night. Kylie was there. They made a banner for me the second night. It was a 2-night show. My dad damn near crashed the go-kart underneath a cable wired fence.
Yes, he did.
Clutch running Tom and Darlene were up in the stands eating popcorn, rooting us on like always. And the following year, we started racing at the Winter Dome at the Iowa State Fairgrounds in the Cattle Pavilion. And we won a championship in, God, what year? I don't have my glasses on.
Do you want me to look?
97, I think it says.
Probably 97. That sounds about right.
Took us a few years. We didn't run every night. Took us a while to start winning. I'm going to pause for a while because I could tell Rob Wilson and John Burright and Chad May's stories, and Tony DeMeo and Brad
Mikey.
Pitts, Mike. Was this no Mike? Anyway, some dude with the name of Pitts.
Yeah. I remember. What was it?
I can't remember.
It was Pitts.
Bill Pitts. Manny Rockhold almost beat the crap out of me one night because he had a difference of opinion with my father. A lot of
Joe Hanrahan helped us out some.
Hanrahan helped us, but it was mostly Robbie, John, Chad, Missy, myself, and,
Mikey.
Unfortunately, AJ wasn't around then. But Cassidy was there with Tom and Darlene every night, rooting us on, and we won a championship in '97 in the novice class. Ran a couple of years after that. The promoter had a heart attack at the track. We finished
on Halloween.
Yeah, we finished that season. Then stuff started happening. We weren't even called Woftam at that point.
So how did we get the name Woftam?
So Rob and I went down to Knoxville. You were there, weren't you, hon?
Yep.
And they were running the USAC Dirt Champ cars that Saturday. And so they had practice and qualifying Friday night. So we went up in the stands to watch qualifying. And Keith Hutton, who was a
Also, God rest his soul.
Also, God rest his soul. He was a rodeo champion and a midget driver from Australia. And Rob and I had gotten to the point where we wanted to call the race team something. I said, let's call it Wilson Racing, because I didn't want it to be Larson Racing for a lot of reasons. He's like, nope, you're not putting my name on it. And I said, well, it's not going to be called Larson Racing. And we tried a couple of ideas. And Keith came up and sat down with us. Keith at that time was wrenching on sprint cars down in Knoxville. Robbie had become close with him. He was working on sprint cars with Robbie. And we said, Keith, we're trying to come up with a name. And he says, for what? And I said, for the go-kart team. He goes, you ought to call it Woftam. Rob and I both looked at him. He goes, waste of fucking time and money. That's all it is. It's all racing is. Waste of fucking time and money. And Rob and I looked at each other and went, perfect. And we've been Woftam ever since.
Woftam has raced what? What cars have you raced, Doug?
Go-karts, TQ midgets. I raced a sprint car for a guy that wasn't under the Woftam banner. I don't think Ron Van Rokel would have liked that. But we've had go-karts and TQ midgets, and we've had Matt Fox drove for us. Cash Hodson drove for us. We put Scott Bennick's brother, can't remember his name, Mike, might be right, might not. We put him in it one night at the Dome. I've driven under it, AJ. Gained a few fans along the way, a few enemies along the way, but we've always had fun, and we were always on a shoestring. Never had a ton of parts or money.
Before this year, how long has it been since you raced?
My last race was at Newton in a Scott Bennett chassis in the KT 100 light class in 2006. It was the Ed Peterson
So
Memorial.
that's 19 years ago?
Yeah,
No,
no,
19, 16,
16 years ago.
16 years ago.
Um, I was coming off the hill down into turn 3, and a couple of guys banged into each other, and I went across the infield to miss them. The grass was this tall, it was stalled out, and I was there by myself. Missy wasn't coming. AJ was a baby, and I'd always promised myself that I wouldn't race anymore if I was at the racetrack and I was thinking of something else besides the racetrack. And I had spent most of the night thinking about my son, listening to the Notre Dame scores on the radio in between races, and of all things, thinking about the fact that I hadn't been to a movie in what felt like 10 years. And I thought, if this is all we can do is spin out in the feature because we're running with a bunch of knuckleheads, I don't want to do this anymore. So the next month or so, I sold most of what I had to a guy out of Indianola, and I bought Missy a Coach bag. And I thought, I'll never drive another race car in my life, and I was fine with it. And that was 2006.
Then last year, what happened, AJ?
Mom said she was going to build her garage.
Mom's still waiting for her garage, just so that you know.
I've been hearing stories my entire life of my dad's racing experiences. We would go to Knoxville on the regular. So I've been around it my entire life, and I've always thought that's cool. I wanna do that. And so for a couple years before this, I've been trying to subtly drop hints that I wanted to race. And then I started getting more basically like, hey, I want to race, you know, and then I came home one day, and Dad's like, you know what, we're gonna buy go karts, we're gonna work on them, we're gonna get everything ready, we're gonna run them this season, and I was like, okay, let's do it. And
Where'd the money come from?
The Mini? Yeah, the Mini Cooper.
Yeah,
Mom's Mini Cooper.
I sold the Mini Cooper and gave all the money to the go-kart team.
You bought a Jeep, which made the Mini Cooper obsolete.
Yes.
And
It was still worth something.
And I said, that Mini Cooper would get us a good ways down the road.
And it did.
And then so we had a little bit of cash, and a friend of Cassidy's saw somebody on the face page, as Larry Killam would say, on the .com, that had a go-kart for sale with a motor on it. It turned out to be illegal, and we wound up selling it for $100. Kart stand, some spare wheels, and a couple of gears. So Mom and I Missy and I jumped in the truck, drove down to
Indianola,
something like that, a suburb, and bought this worn out looking 18-year-old go-kart and brought it home. And that was AJ's go-kart. And
it doesn't look 18 years old now.
I have some pictures of it. I'll send them to you, see if you can get them.
Okay.
So that was the beginning of it. And then we just started hunting for another chassis for me and parts. And then my mom passed away. and all the Harry men from the canoe club came to Mom's funeral. And the Harry men love AJ; they think the world of him. And we're at the
That was in
funeral
October of
last year,
last year, so 22. Yep.
and so AJ and the Harry men are off talking. And they said, "Well, AJ, what are you doing?" And he said, "Well, we're putting go-karts together." And Todd Dooley of Dooley Farms said, "Well, what do you need? I'd like to help." And all of a sudden, we've got a shop to work in that's heated. And all of a sudden, we've got a trailer that we can haul the go-karts in, which is what Missy was really wanting. She wanted not to have to be rained on or have the sun beaten down on us unnecessarily. And as it was, we were going to have to run out of 2, maybe 3
Pickup trucks.
trucks. So all of a sudden, with Todd's investment, we're a race team. We've got chassis and bodywork and tires, and I start putting bodywork together, and I wrote up a sponsorship proposal, and we chased down Captain Roy's and got some money from them. AJ's helmet, which is right there, was painted by Luke from No Safety, who does boards and apparel.
Skateboards.
No.
Skateboards and skate apparel.
Mm-hmm. And just about the time we decided we wanted to put the band back together and have AJ and I race, we'd driven down to Carlisle to see my old boss Bill Dyke and his camper, who was going to be camping at a campsite south of Carlisle for the summer in preparation for retirement. And we're driving down into the campsite and we see this go-kart track. And I thought, oh my God, look at that thing. It shaped like Williams Grove, and it looked neat. And they were running lawnmowers and go-karts and mini bikes. So Missy and I went down and sat with Bill and Riley for a while, and on the way out of the campsite, lo and behold, they started running a race show. So we bought a pit pass and walked around and looked at stuff, and we decided that was going to be our home track. We've run there 4 or 5 times, and we ran Newton last week for the first time for AJ. First time in a long time for me, obviously. And AJ, in the meantime, over the winter, and then again this summer, has been running indoor kart leagues on electric karts on road courses and doing quite well and having a blast. So that's kind of how we've gotten where we're at. And due to the help of Larry Killam, Steve Smith, who builds our motors, we're doing a lot better than we should be.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got 1 win so far in the new Woftam. AJ's been on the podium twice or 3 times?
Twice.
And still hunting that first win, but that's coming. And 100 years ago, we bought a VHS recorder. Or no, did Mom buy that for us?
Oh, the big camera?
Yeah.
I don't know. I loved that thing. I could just sit it on my shoulder. Your mom might have bought that for
And
us.
so
Yeah.
we've got videotape from '94 of pretty much every race. I don't think we ran where you didn't have video rolling. And even with you, Missy was out of town this past Saturday, and Cassidy and her friend Allie ran video for us. So other than the TQ midget and a couple of my solo races, yeah, we've had, I would say 85 to 90% of the Woftam racing is documented somewhere. So now all these people with the YouTube channels we started watching them, and we went, "Holy shit, this feels a lot like what Missy did," and that really made us want to go back to it and stuff.
Shout out to Mandy Pouch.
Yeah, Mandy Pouch for it.
I've learned a lot from you, girl. Thank you.
I don't know. AJ's a third generation racer. What's that feel like? Because growing up, I always looked at the racers' kids and thought, well, I can identify with that.
You didn't grow up as a racer's kid, though, because Dad didn't race much when you were little,
No,
when you were growing up.
but I heard a lot about it, as I said, and it it helps me. It helped me a lot going into racing because I retain the stories. I remember the things that Dad tells me. Like there's a couple times that me and Dad will sit down in the living room and watch videos, and he'll be like, see what they're doing right there. See how they're doing that with this. At Knoxville, we would walk the track and we would talk about where you'd want to run and all that. Um, both of both both of my parents, my mother and my dad, have done a very good job of asking me questions and getting answers out of me from the racing community.
So when your mother would tell you her perspective on racing, for me, I was a fan, a sometimes crew member, a sometimes driver. What was your mom's background in racing?
Only one that I can think of right now is a queen.
Queen of the Knoxville Nationals in 1989.
Yes.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
So.
Oh, Pshaw.
So the only person in the family that's ever been on the victory platform at Knoxville Raceway is behind the camera right now. So we're very proud of her for that. But anyway, I don't know. I think AJ is benefited from having good equipment to drive, but he's also he's a lot better driver than my father and myself were at his age. And it's been a lot of fun watching him get comfortable and get faster. I don't know. It's been a blast sharing the track with him.
And I can say the same. It's a lot of fun being on the track with my dad. There was one time at Carlisle that there was a caution, and I came forward up to the car that was just right up there, and I look over, and it's my dad, and I look over and I literally go, "Dad!" It was just such a happy moment for me being able to share such an adventure with my dad.
And
Cassidy's come to 2 or 3 races so far this year. She's done an excellent job of coaching her brother up and supporting her brother.
Indeed.
she's done some great photography.
She's always been really excited to watch me run, and it's nice to have fans. Nice to have support. I don't know. Are there any specific stories you want to relay, or?
Well, how did you feel when the first time AJ passed you and sucked the paint off your car?
So I've been having motor problems at River Bottom all year, and you know, I've got plenty of races under my belt. I just wanted AJ's kart to run, and it didn't just run. The kid took off and left us all. First time he got to me, we'd had a restart. We came down into off of one. I got running. The motor was sour. I go down into one, And the guy that AJ was racing with went past me, and right behind him went AJ. And I thought, holy shit, kid. And he passed me like I was painted on the fence. And him and the 75 disappeared. And they raced with each other, and I was able to hang with them long enough that I could see him racing. It was a good race. I was proud of AJ. We get into the pits, and AJ says to me, Dad, I really wanted to race with you longer when I got to you. And I said, yeah, you didn't give me much of a choice, dude. He blew me off and disappeared down into one and went down the back stretch as if I was nobody. And I couldn't have been prouder of him, couldn't have been happier, and he does a really good job.
Well, I tried.
Well, we're going to keep our eyes on the Woftam team of Doug Larson and AJ Larson as they adventure through Midwest Iowa on their go-karts. As always, like and subscribe. If you have any questions, hit us up in the comments. We'll be happy to answer anything that you got. Night.
If my words did glow with the gold of sunshine, and my tunes were played on the harp unstrung, would you hear my voice come through the music